Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're continuing with our weekly shir on the Zohar Kadosh based on the weekly Parsha. And in this week's Parsha, Parsha's Yisro, we're going to focus on a particular keta in the Zohar Kadosh that I came across this morning that I think can offer us some insight into a certain mahalach of how to function a little bit better this week. So the Zohar Kadosh starts off and it says, V'yishma Yisro, Yisro heard something. V'ch Yisro sama v'chol alma loy shamu. Did Yisro hear something that the entirety of the world did not hear? Rav Leib Le'eger in Taurus Emes, similar to the Sas Emes in Parshas Lech Lecha with regards to Avram Avinu hearing while the rest of the world didn't hear, describes that ultimately, in truth, the voice came out to everybody in the world. But the Chiddush of Avram and the Chiddush of Yisro is that Vayishma, that they listened, that they bent their ear, they attuned their ear to listen to that voice that was calling out from inside of them, that was calling out from within the very fabric of existence, and they bent themselves to it and they allowed themselves to be moved by it. And it's specifically that ability to be moved by it that enables one to then have a response and to uncover responsibility and to allow for that call, which is perpetually coming out of Har Chayrev, the Hirhuri Tshuva, the calls to return that each and every person experiences in their day-to-day lives. The ability to listen is what gives us the ability to respond, because the responsibility is only when I have the capacity to hear the call itself. And that was the Chiddush of Yisro, and that was the Chiddush of Avram, that they attuned themselves to listen. The Zohar Kadosh is asking, did only Yisro hear and nobody else heard? Shimu Am Yirgazun, but we see that everybody else, the rest of the nations, heard because they got upset, they got frustrated, they got scared when they saw that Matan Torah was taking place. They come running to Bilam asking him whether another flood is happening, as Rav Tzadok points out. So clearly they heard something. So what was unique about the Yisro? Elokol alma shamu v'loy isbaru. Rather, the entire world heard, but they weren't moved by it. They didn't attune themselves to it. They didn't actually contemplate the significance of what was being encountered from the wavelengths, the sound waves of experience at that moment. And they didn't have the capacity to break themselves free from their stupor. V'ishama v'itaber. And if they had heard and they bent themselves, v'hafcha, and they transformed themselves, and even if you want to say that they felt something, at first they felt something, and then they returned back to their own ways. Rabbi Abba says, "Bekama eser tanina de kutshavarichu kol ma de ovid le'ele betata kula ihu kishoit v'uvda dekshoit." We've already learned, Rabbi Abba says, that everything that takes place above and below is fundamentally rooted in truth. Ultimately, the deepest truth is that it took place, and anything that takes place is fundamentally true because there's no truth other than reality itself. And the truest expression is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light, and therefore everything that happens in this world is true. So this radical nature that everything in the world is developed for a purpose, is emergent out of truth, means that there's absolutely nothing extra in the world. If it's rooted in the fundamental truth of how Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to reveal himself, and truth is the expression of the beginning, the middle, and the end, meaning that there's no outside of the truth, then ultimately the mere fact that it exists means that it's true, and therefore if it's true, I can't negate it, I can't despise it, I can't destroy it. There's absolutely nothing in existence that is not redeemable by way of uncovering the Nakuda of Emes that is inherent within it, which is the secret of that tikach emes mikol adam, that a person can learn the secret of truth from each and every person, because ultimately there's at least a nitzatz of emes at the heart of all things. And as a result of this, that there's nothing in the world that a person should completely push away or move away from, and to treat it with hatred or to despise it, because hakulia uvda de kashitin, everything is a byproduct of the truth of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'kula itzarech ba'alma, and all of them are necessary in the world. There's nothing extra. Already here, the Zohar Kadosh is giving a penetrating insight into the very fabric of the birthplace of so much anxiety, which is that perhaps there's something meaningless here. Perhaps there's a meaninglessness here. Perhaps there's something that is insignificant. Perhaps there's some way of finding myself in a circumstance that does not contain the opportunity to grasp hold of the innermost point. The assumption that there's an innermost point and then there's going to be peripheries that are devoid of the innermost point is what creates the notion that there's extra in this world, that there's surplus, that there's things that are devalued because they don't contain the inner kernel of value. But what halacha teaches us and what the Torah Kadosha teaches us is that everything is inherently valuable. Everything has a nakuda. If it exists, it has a nakuda of mitzias, and that nakuda of mitzias is what makes it essential. There's a nakuda of ikr. There's a nakuda of kavod shemayim that comes out of it. Yes, there's ikr and there's tafel. Yes, there's something that is the main thing, and there's something that's only expressed as the main thing when I realize that it's not the main thing. So the omni-significance at the heart of all things, or the ability to find a hyper essential point of meaning at the heart of all things, doesn't mean that everything is equal. It just means that everything has value. Everything provides meaningfulness, even if it's my grappling with meaninglessness. Meaninglessness provides the opportunity to uncover the spark of meaningfulness that is covered over by the garment of meaninglessness. This is the hyper essentiality that allows a person to find meaning even in the loss of meaning. If I feel that there's only one sturdy set point of meaning in the world, then everything that's not that point is going to be meaningless and extra, and it's going to seem insignificant, and my encounter with it is all but meaningless. But when I understand that no, there's no singular point of significance because everything is significant, at that point, everything becomes a pathway where I can encounter the ikr, the secret of the asoid, the hiskashrus, the nekuda pnimis, the bris of all things, which is the attentional point of focus that enables me to have hisdavkus and das and connection to that thing. And with my das, which uncovers that innermost nakuda inherent in all things, so then b'chol derachecha de'ehu, then I can uncover you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, wherever I find myself. And that's what includes all things that appear to be meaningless within the framework of meaning, because there's always a kernel of significance to be uncovered. Daha Zimnachad, and the Zohar Kadosh brings an incredible story to kind of bring about this point, to teach us about the hyperessentiality of all things, that one can never assume that something in their life was extra. One can never assume that something in their life was meaningless, because once it's happened, there's meaning to be uncovered within it, and there's nothing that should be ridiculed or cast away as completely insignificant, but even the areas of insignificance are revealed to be significant. This is the Gans Metzias of Torah Sheba'al Peh. The first sugi in Torah Sheba'al Peh comes to teach us this, that the me'emasai, my concern, comes from the fact that there's extras. Mariv itself, Kriyat Shema Shel Arvis, is rooted in the hekter chalavim ve'evarim. It's the extras of the korban, but over there we see that the extras of the korban themselves reveal that there's absolutely nothing extra. Even the extra is not extra because there's a point of essentiality within it. And then the entire sugya goes through Kriyat Shema Shel Arvis, brings us to Kriyat Shema Shel Shacharis, back to Kriyat Shema Shel Arvis, questioning the orientation of the Gemara to start off with this displacement of an idea and why we had to go in a roundabout, circuitous way to uncover the simple question of what we were trying to begin the sugya with, which was Kriyat Shema Shel Arvis. The Gemara says, Milsa Agav Orcha Kamash Malan, that ultimately Chazal came to teach us something in a roundabout way. Now, seemingly the initiation of Torah Sheba'al Peh would want to provide insight or wisdom as directly as possible, because that typically is the value of wisdom. The quicker that it can be delivered, the more beneficial it's going to be. And that's rooted, obviously, in our inability to tolerate process, like we spoke about last week in our share in the inner world of calmness. But ultimately, what Torah Sheba'al Peh is coming to teach us is this very secret of Milsa Agav Orcha Kamashmalan, that no, very often life will teach you things specifically in a roundabout way, and it's specifically what you thought was tafel, which is going to reveal to you an innermost point of ikr. And this perspective enables me to find meaning and believe that I can uncover meaning in any circumstance, whether it's a circumstance that was expected, which I deem as significant in my life, or whether it was an unexpected circumstance, which I deem as insignificant. Significance and mitzius is saturating all things. And what's the story that supports this? The Hazim Nachada Have Rabbi Eliezer Azil Be'orche, that Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Shimon, was walking along a path. Again, the Zohar Kadosh does the very same thing. The walking becomes significant, even though it's not as significant as the teaching. But in the Zohar Kadosh, even that which seems to be insignificant is revealed to be saturated with the light of significance. Azil Be'orche was walking along the path. V'hava Azil Imei Rav Chizkiah, and Rav Chizkiah was traveling along with him. Chamu Chad Chivya, and they saw a serpent, they saw a snake along the path. Come Reb Chizkiah lemakatle. Reb Chizkiah wanted to get up to kill it. Amr le Reb Elazar, shavik le loy ketline. Leave it, don't kill it. Amr le v'hamil bi she'iu dekatel b'inasha. But Reb Chizkiah wanted to kill the snake, says, is this not a disgusting creature? Is this not a shameful creature that wants to harm human beings? Amr le Reb Chizkiah. And Reb Chizkiah responds, and Rav Chizkiah responds, but in truth, the nachash is going to come to bite. Loy nashich chivya lebar nash, ad delach shin lei me'ela v'amri lei zil kate lei lepalne. But haven't we learned already? Haven't we learned that the snake attacks based on the actions of an individual? And if a snake is coming to attack, that's specifically when you have to be able to kill the snake. And in addition, not only that, not only does the snake have the ability to only attack when it's specifically caused to attack, but in addition to that, the snake also provides protection when it needs to attack something else. And so we see that everything is dependent upon the relative position of its value. Everything is dependent on the relative role that it's playing, and everything is ultimately contained and contingent in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The kula ivde uvde yodei, ve'itztarich almalahu. And all of these are the actions, the handiwork of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the world needs all of them. V'ilav de itztarich loin, and if it was not necessary, alma loy avid lan kutshbrichu. And if it was not needed, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu would not have created it. And this is where we learn out that a human being should not look at the world as being insignificant, not to look with eyes of insignificance towards the world. All the more so when it comes to the creations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we see this profound relationship between this conversation about the role of something apparently meaninglessness. The role of something apparently devoid of meaning, not only devoid of meaning, but also representing something destructive. But the mindset that says, take it out of its context and recognize that everything that one encounters in their life, meaningful or meaningless, is all there to teach a lesson to the individual themselves. That this conversation between the Tanaim is coming to realize that the snake is not purposeless, because the snake only enters into one's life when there's some element or a reason for it to enter into one's life, and therefore it's significant in accordance with that person's perspective. And if anything is crossing the threshold of my mind or my experience in this world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has placed me in, then memela, there's going to be something significant about it. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh teaches us a radical teaching. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh teaches that when a person sees something in another person, they can assume that it's a reflection of something that's going on within them, the mirror principle. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe Zchus Galilino asks a very simple question: what's the star to say such a radical thing? Why is it that I should assume that every issue that I see externally, all of those insignificant, inessential things in my life, why should they bear an impact on the essence of who I am? Why should I assume and inculcate myself with all of these external insignificant things that are taking place and assume them to be speaking directly towards the kernel of my significance? Why cause myself this problem? And Zakt Lubavitcher Rebbe that the lumdis of it is hashgacha pratis. That the reason that we have to assume that everything I encounter is there to teach me a lesson about myself is because we have an undying basic belief that everything that I encounter in this world is directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there's nothing extra, and there's nothing by mistake. There's nothing surplus. There's nothing insignificant. The dreams, the waste, all of it, all of those things serve a purpose. And it's specifically the Nachash that's teaching us this, because the Nachash, prior to the Chet of Adam Arishon, was meant to take the waste out and go find valuable diamonds, because the Nachash was the one who was supposed to grapple with this question of insignificance and significance. The human being was meant to live a life of Torah, which is a world of hyper-significance. Torah Lishma, connectivity of the mind, and engaging with the fundamental fabric and texture of existence, the Aleph base, the 22 letters that compose and comprise all of existence. And it was the Nachash that was meant to deal with that which was insignificant. It was meant to deal with the body or the eating or the waste or all of those processes which seems devoid and irredeemable from the lens of spiritual activity. But then the Chet of Adam Arishon took place, which again is just a Milsa Agavorka Kamash Malan. The entire secret of the Chet of the Yetz Hadas is a deviation away from meaningfulness into meaninglessness, but it's specifically there that we come to learn that in the meanderings of human life and in the meanderings and the wanderings of human experience, it's specifically there that we have the ability to be Megala Zayin on the Achdus Havayra, to be Megala Zayin on the hyper significance and the hyper essentialism that's inherent within all things. And it's specifically by way of Yerida that we come to understand the secret of the Aliyah. And the Nachash becomes an embodied element, and we encounter the Nachash within ourselves. And this is where Rav Chizki and Rabbi Elazar are encountering the secret of the Nachash, and they're looking at the Ra in the world. We spoke earlier about how the Shirish of the Nachash in the house of Paro was the secret of all of those dinim, Kol HaMoisif Goreya, that the Shirish of din is to impose and imply the secret that there's something extra and devoid of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's Hashgacha, the Yud Aleph instead of the Yud. To say that no, there's something extra in this world. There's something that is devoid of meaning. And if something is devoid of meaning, then everything is devoid of meaning. And come along the Tanayim HaKadoshim and come along the Zohar HaKadosh and says, no, everything, even that which is without meaning, is saturated with meaning. Why? Because it exists. And if it exists, there's meaning to be uncovered within it. And it bears remembering that the Zohar Kadosh is operating with the radical theory of the creativity of the Jewish mind, that the creativity of the Jewish mind is that I'm the one who has the ability to create the meaning for this context in my life. I am the one who has the ability to contextualize the content. And therefore, because I have an infinite power of a hermeneutical space where I can provide meaning through the Yud Gimel Midos, Torah Nidreshes Bahem, the secret of Yud Gimel, which is the secret of Echad and Ahava, the love that I have to find connection and unity in my life. It's through those midos, through those Yud Gimel midos Shator Nidreshes Bahem, through those Yud Gimel Tikkune Dikna, the 13 rectifications of the beard, the 13 midos harachamim, where the chait, where everything that seems insignificant is revealed to be hyper significant. Why? Because it exists, and if it exists, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is present in it, because all of existence is just expressive of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is the secret of Parshas Yisro, that Yisro is yeser. Yisro is something that is apparently extra, insignificant. It's not within the realm of Klal Yisrael. It's not ready to be part and parcel of the body of Klal Yisrael. It's all of the extras, the makifim, the expertise in all foreign wisdoms and all foreign religious positions and all foreign meditative techniques, etc., etc., etc. All of these extra things. And suddenly it's specifically Yisro that is revealed to be part and parcel of the Kedusha. And not only that, but he has a Parsha in the Torah added for him, the secret of adding Kedusha, the secret of finding something that appeared to be insignificant, that Yeser, and not only finding value in it by allowing it to become so fundamentally significant that it comes into the very essence of the thing itself. Yisro becomes part of parcel of the Torah, because Yisro is that identifiable point where we see that that which appears to be insignificant can also be transformed into significance. That which is outside of the realm of Klal Yisrael, outside of the realm of Torah, that secret of the Gerim that are nichlal into Torah itself, that secret of Yisro, that secret of Rus, that secret of the capacity to add to that which appeared to be meaningless and to uncover meaning within it, that secret of Rav Chizkiah and Rabbi Elazar encountering this snake on the road and coming to this deep clarification of the fact that if something exists, then by definition, there's some element of meaningfulness or purposefulness that I'm meant to encounter in it. That secret of everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in the world is true. There's an element of truth because it exists, and if it exists, there's a nakuda of emes that needs to be uncovered, to be megalazan, and the nakuda of emes la'amiso, that the ikr and the tafel are both makusher to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It specifically Yisro comes to teach us this. And this is why Rabbi Nachman and all the tzaddikim loved Parshas Yisro so much, because Yisro is the secret that even that which is extra and devoid of spirituality can be infused with spirituality to reveal the true power of spirituality, which is that it's so saturated that it has the ability to reveal the supplement of spirituality. The logic of the supplement is that I am adding something in spite of the fact that there's nothing missing. It's an addition that's based on saturation rather than an addition that's based on deficiency. And this secret of Yisro is the adding. It's the secret that Moshe Rabbeinu comes to understand of Yamim al Yamim Melech Toisif, that the avodah of the tzaddikim is to add one more day. This is the das of Moshe, who says that yes, we're meant to receive the Torah on the 5th of Sivan, but I want to be Moisef Yom Echad Midaisi. I want to transform what appears to be meaningless into something that is meaningful, and I want to add. And that's the secret of the Hoysafa. The secret of the Hoysafa is to uncover more and more meaning wherever we're looking. And this is the secret of the Nachash, is the secret of Kayin. It's the secret of the severity that one encounters in this world. Yisro is a tikkun to the neshama of Kayin because it's what appears to be extra. It sees things in this world, Hevel is extra. It sees that there can be something insignificant, and if it's insignificant, then it can destroy it. The murder, the destruction of that thing is the recognition that this is not meant to be here. This is not meant to be in the world, and therefore I can ultimately get rid of it. And the revelation of Yisro is that no, there's nothing that's extra in this world. There's nothing that's extra in this world, and therefore there's nothing that should be fundamentally gotten rid of. Even the nature of Amalek, as Rav Tzadok describes, is not something that can ever be fully devoid of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore needs to be fully erased, because there's nothing that can be existent for even a moment devoid of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore there's nothing in existence that needs to actually be fully erased. Elamah, the erasure of Amalek, is coming to the recognition that in truth there's no such thing as Amalek. There's no possibility of Amalek, because there is no surplus. There is nothing extra. Everything is hyper essential. Everything is the Nakuda HaPnimis. And this is the battle between Yosef and Yehuda, that Yosef is the one who says that every point, there's a point of significance in all things, the Nakuda of Yesod. There's significant and there's insignificant. And the job is to be Mekusher to the point of significance and not, God forbid, to be stuck in the place of insignificance, where the notion of Pagam Habris comes from, where missing the point comes from, where I am not being Koilet Sa'ara. I am not hitting the pinpoint kind of bullseye of experience, and I'm losing all things. Yehuda comes along and Yehuda says, no, there's no singular point of significance, because everything is significance. And wherever I find myself, that's where the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu has brought me ultimately. And it's my job to do tshuva in that place and to reveal the significance of all of those deviations and the meanderings and the nachash and the chivya that is found on the path. And Be'ezus Hashem, through the koyach of Yisro, through the koyach of adding the levels of kedusha to that which appeared to be devoid of kedusha, of transforming that which appears to be meaninglessness into the secret of meaningfulness, is the additional parsha to the Torah HaKadosha. It also gives us the ability to transform all of those mistakes, all of those deviations, all of those apparent meaningless experiences of our lives, which bear us down with the yesh of all of the lost time and lost possibility, and to reflect then through our retroactive capacity to infuse all of those moments that were devoid of meaning, to infuse them with meaning, because they have brought me to where I am right now. And at that point, the person can even uncover the light of the chivya al haderech. A person can even uncover the light of that snake, which is the gematria of Mashiach, because it's ultimately when a person comes to realize that there's nothing extra and that everything is hyper significant, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is found in each and every nekuda, that we're able to uncover the lights of Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, and Be'ezras Hashem to be zoche to gua shlema b'karov mamish.